All right, so you're all set for your flight. Pre-flight's done. Weather looks okay, ready to file IFR. But think about what's really essential in your flight bag. It's not just for your headset anymore, right? Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, the vital documents and maybe more importantly, the fuel planning side of things under ASAP Part-NCO. Those are the European rules for non-commercial flying. And we're focusing specifically on IFR. We want to look at how getting these details right isn't just ticking boxes. It's really about, safety.
Absolutely. Compliance, yeah, it's the baseline. But really, this is about practical safety in the cockpit, especially when you get into things like declaring minimum fuel or Mayday Fuel.
Hmm.
Knowing the difference there, I mean, that's crucial. It could genuinely save your flight.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. Documents under Part NCO, what absolutely has to be on board beyond, your license and medical. What do pilots sometimes miss?
Well, besides the personal stuff license, medical Part NCO is pretty clear about the aircraft's documents. You definitely need the certificate of airworthiness and the certificate of registration. On board, always. But the real gotcha. Often it's making sure the aircraft flight manual is the right one for that specific plane, and it's current and, easily accessible, especially if it's digital. Same for the noise certificate sometimes. It boils down to proving the aircraft itself is legal for this particular flight right now.
Right, so the paperwork establishes the legality.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the operational side, particularly IFR fuel planning under Part NCO. Here, it's much stricter than VFR. Why is that? What makes instrument flying demand so much more thought on fuel?
Yeah, it's a different ballgame. Think of VFR, like driving on an open road. You can see petrol stations, pull over easily. IFR, that's more like trying to navigate a big city, maybe in thick fog during rush hour. You might get put in a hold, need to divert because the weather changed unexpectedly at your destination, maybe shoot multiple approaches. All that potential complexity. Plus, you can't just, look out the window and find a field easily. So your fuel plan needs serious buffers built in. It has to account for those what ifs. It's a calculated plan B, C, and D.
Okay, so that brings us to the really sharp end of managing that fuel. These terms, minimum fuel and Mayday fuel. What's the core difference? And, what happens practically if you get them confused when talking to ATC?
This is super important, yeah. Declaring minimum fuel, what you're telling ATC is essentially, okay, I've used up my contingency fuel, I can still make it, but I cannot accept undue delays. ATC hears minimum fuel, they'll acknowledge it, and they'll try to expedite things for you, prevent further delays. But crucially, it's not an emergency. You still have your required final reserve fuel plus enough to get where you're going, or your alternate. Think of it as a professional heads up. It gets ATC thinking about your situation, maybe prioritizing you a bit, but without hitting the big red button.
Okay, so minimum is a flag, a warning. Mayday fuel, though.
Mm.
That sounds completely different. That is the emergency button, right?
Exactly. Mayday fuel is a whole different level. That is a distress call. It means you're in a critical situation where you calculate you're going to land with less than your final reserve fuel. Or worse, you might actually have to put the aircraft down off airport. It's that serious.
Wow, so the response is immediate.
Oh, absolutely. You declare Mayday fuel and ATC clears the decks. They'll give you immediate priority, clear airspace, alert emergency services on the ground, everything. Using it wrongly, well, that can cause major disruption and likely lead to questions later. But not using it when you genuinely need it, that's far, far worse. You're signaling grave and imminent danger requires absolute priority now.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive then. For ESA Part NCO flying IFR, two big takeaways. One, always have those essential current documents easily accessible. And two, really master the fuel planning. It's demanding for a reason.
Yeah.
And know, absolutely know the difference between minimum fuel, the heads up, and Mayday fuel, the emergency.
Precisely. And maybe that leaves you, the listener, with something to think about. Beyond just meeting the legal minimums for fuel, how could carrying a bit extra, planning more proactively, actually improve your safety margin? How might it give you more options, better decision-making power when things inevitably go sideways in IFR conditions? Something to ponder for your next flight prep.
That's a great final thought. Really practical stuff. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, fly safe, everyone.